Right. Now, as I was telling, that a thyroid gland again will have what you call two main types of cells, which are your follicular cells and your parafollicular cells. Follicular cells are responsible for production of thyroid hormones, whereas parafollicular cells will secrete calcitonin. All right. Now, hold on. Yeah. See, the main type of hormones that your thyroid gland will secrete, two main types at least, will be thyroxine and triiodothyronine. Thyroxine is also called tetraiodothyronine because it will have four iodine vertical molecules in it, four iodine moieties in it. Okay, that is why it is called T4 and T3. T3 will have three iodine moieties in it, and T4 will have four. T4 is also called triiodothyronine or thyroxine. Okay. Other than this, now while circulating and while producing these hormones as well, some intermediate hormones are also formed. Something called RT3 is reverse triiodothyronine. Okay, this is specially formed near tissues where your T3 will start acting or showing its function there. Okay, RT3 is formed. MIT and DIT are monoiodothyronine and diiodothyronine. So they have a single iodine molecule and two iodine molecules. Okay, that is why monoiodo and diiodo. Now, how you get T4 and T3 is if you have one monoiodine molecule, monoiodine thyrionine molecule that is combining with a diiodine thyrionine molecule, you will get a T3. So 1 plus 2 will be 3, the most basic senses. Okay, and if you have two diiodothyronine molecule combining with each other, you get thyroxine. Okay, did you understand what I just told?
Sir.
Hmm?
sir.
Yes,
समझ
sir.
में आया? Okay.
Yes, sir.
बेसिकली दो हार्मोन रहते हैं, मेजर हार्मोन्स आर T4 एंड T3. एक में 4 मॉलिक्यूल्स रहता है आयोडीन के, एक में 3 मॉलिक्यूल्स रहते हैं. हाउ यू मेक दैट इज यू ऑलरेडी हैव सम इंटरमीडिएट बाई प्रोडक्ट्स सच एज RT3 monoiodothyronine which has one iodine molecule and diiodothyronine which has two iodine molecules. Now in the image also you can see what are follicular cells. These will be the follicular cells and the cells around it will be your parafollicular cells. All right, these will form small colloids in your thyroid. You'll understand it a little better in your anatomy, but this is the basic picture. How if I take the cross section of your thyroid gland, it will look like this. So in your colloidal region, you will have your hormone formation, right? So in that your MIT, which is monoiodothyronine, if it combines with a diiodothyronine molecule, 1 plus 2 iodine, you will get triiodothyronine. If you have two diiodothyronine molecules combining with each other, you get thyroxine molecule. All right, that is the basics of it. Now coming to the function of thyroid hormone in general, what does your thyroid hormone and thyroid gland do? Okay, one important function, see, in general your thyroid gland will be responsible for metabolism. Okay, that is one of the most important functions. If you want to get a conclusion of all of these, it has a function in maintaining BMR. BMR is basal metabolic rate. Okay, so now what is basal metabolic rate? आप लोगों को न्यूट्रिशन में BMR पढ़ा है?
No, sir.
No. Okay. So BMR is basically the rate at which your body will metabolize substances. For example, if I have two people, okay, roughly around the same size, same age, okay, same gender as well, let's suppose, and I'm giving them something to eat, okay, so the same thing to eat. Let's suppose I'm giving them one piece of biscuit, okay. Now the rate at which they will digest and the rate at which they will metabolize that substance, meaning the rate at which their body will break down that biscuit into what you call smaller particles, usable particles by your mitochondria, so that you can make ATP, because that is the point of having nutrition or something to eat. You're trying to make ATP, you're trying to get energy out of it. So the rate at which it can happen, okay, that will be your metabolic rate. How quickly or at what rate what you call that particular thing or what you call object that you are consuming can get metabolized. It can be a drug, it can be some food item, it can be anything in that aspect, whichever you're taking orally, that will be relating to your metabolic rate. Sometimes it can also correlate to what you call hormones, how well your body is metabolizing hormones in a way. Okay. Mostly the example given is of food because that is the most correlated one. I hope you understand what is BMR. This will be very individualistic. That is why some people, even though they eat a lot, they are relatively thin. Okay, their metabolism is very high. Their metabolic rate, basal metabolic rate is very high, so they metabolize very quickly, and they what you call convert everything into energy very quickly. Okay, that is why based on BMR changes, some people might not, but might have it harder to gain weight and things like that, right? Now, another important function of your thyroid with conjunction with your BMR will be calorie genesis. So it will help in formation of calories, and basically usable energy units. Okay, here calorie genesis in a way, what do you call, indirectly tells you about ATP generation, because it is helping in metabolism. It will help in what you call formation of ATP in a sense. For example, if I directly tell you, it will stimulate protein synthesis and carbohydrate metabolism, meaning it is helping in formation of what you call uh, basically it will help in formation of usable energy. That is the simplest way of putting it. Okay. Another thing, important function of thyroid gland is it is helping in growth and development in a child, and all the way from a child to an adult. It is very important for growth and development. So if someone has hypothyroid disorders, or a disorder in which any of the hormone, what you call thyroid hormone, is not functioning properly, or is inadequate, or there is a tumor or any other problem, they will definitely have defects in their growth. All right. So your normal growth, including your what you call height, your bone density, all of that, sexual maturation, so secondary sexual characters, adrenergic activity. Adrenergic activity basically refers to your what you call, how should I put it, your sympathetic nervous system activity. Okay, I'm not sure whether or not you guys have covered nervous system, but adrenergic activity, basically think of adrenergic activity as the activity carried out by adrenaline. Okay. Adrenergic activity directly correlates with whatever is done by adrenaline. That is the most basic example I can give you. Okay, I'm not sure whether you've been taught sympathetic parasympathetic systems, but आप लोगों को nervous system हुआ?
No, sir.
Okay, then the most easiest way to understand this is through adrenaline activity. Now you know what all adrenaline does. It increases blood pressure, increases force of contraction, rate of contraction, all of that, right? It will heighten your responses. So it will decrease digestion. That is the function of adrenaline, some basic functions of adrenaline. So adrenergic activity is driven by what you call your thyroid as well. Okay, for proper adrenergic activity, because sometimes you do need adrenergic activity. Okay, even if it is not in excess, you do need it for normal functioning of your body, for which you need your thyroid gland, right? That is those are some of the most important functions, right? These are the rest, though that was a summary. So like oxygen consumption, all of these will tie into metabolism and consumption, calorie genesis in one way or the other, and growth. Okay. Now if let's suppose I'm talking about increase in vitamin requirements, right, or regulating calcium and phosphorus metabolism, this will help in growth of the body. Right, one way or the other, it will help in growth and help in maintaining proper health of the body. uh, then increasing sensitivity to catecholamines. Catecholamines are your what do you call this thing, dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, adrenaline, noradrenaline. Those are called catecholamines, that they are secreted by your adrenal medulla. These will have a direct correlation on your heart, so they will increase your heart rate and they will increase myocardial contractility. Your heart has a property wherein it will have both force of contraction and rate of contraction. Okay, there is a difference between them. The force with which the heart contracts, that will be correlating with your myocardial contractility, how much your myocardium can contract. Okay, that will directly correlate with the force of contraction, how with what force your heart can contract. And the rate of contraction, this is heart rate, basically the rate at which your heart will contract. Okay, normally it is 72 beats per minute. See, both of these will have an effect on cardiac output, the amount of what you call, the volume of blood that is coming out per minute, or at not per minute, you can tell per minute also, or what you call, if you go at the end of each cycle as well, each cardiac cycle, how much output is coming out, right? So it will have a direct correlation on that, right? Another thing is it will help in synthesis and degradation of cholesterol and triglycerides. So specifically fat metabolism in a way. Okay, it is increasing the synthesis and degradation of cholesterol and triglycerides, meaning यहाँ पर I'm not sure whether you know or not, but cholesterol is one very important chemical in your body, especially for the formation of steroid hormones. Right, steroid hormones include testosterone, estrogen, all of that. Now for that you need to have cholesterol. If someone has very low amount of cholesterol, then what do you call, you will not be able to what do you call, form or produce enough amount of testosterone, so that can lead problems down the line as well. So you do need cholesterol in your body, just not in excess, right? Now what is TSH? So before this you need to understand the relation between TSH, TRH and thyroid hormones. One second, show you right. Are you able to see this? Sir,
Yes, sir.
okay, ठीक है. Now let's start with the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is what do you call, organ that is present directly under your thalamus. आप लोगों को न्यूरोलॉजी में hypothalamus पढ़ा है, किधर रहता, क्या रहता, क्या फंक्शन है? I mean in anatomy, neurology of neuroanatomy.
No, sir.
No, okay.
No,
So
sir.
hypothalamus, okay, it's a part of your brain. Okay, now hypothalamus is a very particular organ that is present in between your, in a way, under your thalamus, and it will be present very close to your pituitary gland. There is a small what you call passageway in between called infundibulum. Okay, your hypothalamus looks like this. Hold on, show it to you so that you understand in relationship. One second. Right, are you guys able to see this image of hypothalamus?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right,
Yes,
one
sir.
second. I'll zoom in a little bit so that you can see better. Now in your brain, if you can see this, here it is showing your what you call hypothalamus. उसके ऊपर रहता thalamus, यहाँ पर clearly image के ऊपर नहीं आ रहा, but if you can see my cursor, this is your brain stem. Above your brain stem there will be two what you call oval shaped what you call organs called thalamus. Directly under that will be your hypothalamus. Now hypothalamus is you can tell hypothalamus is something that controls your pituitary gland. Pituitary gland is very important for your body. Both hypothalamus and pituitary are very important because they will directly be controlling several functions in your body, several metabolic functions in your body specifically. All right. Now, what hypothalamus does is, in our scenario, it will go and stimulate your pituitary. How it is doing this is, see, now there is something called hypothalamus pituitary axis. Okay, if you know what is an axis, AXIS, okay, it is basically a line on which something can rotate. All right. If I tell the axis of the Earth, it is something on which your Earth will rotate. Okay, if you can understand what I'm telling you. So in your body, you will have several such axes. The plural of axis is axis, AXES. This refers to, basically, it is not exactly a straight line. It basically means that the line of control. Now, if I tell you, for example, hypothalamus, pituitary, thyroid axis. So basically, it means that the control between hypothalamus, pituitary, and thyroid. So how your hypothalamus is controlling pituitary, pituitary is ultimately controlling your thyroid, or what you call hypothalamus, pituitary, ovarian axis. Okay, or hypothalamus, pituitary, testicular axis, or some such way. Okay, if you can understand what I'm telling. Here, the axis means how your hypothalamus and pituitary in turn are controlling other parts of your body. All right, through hormones, obviously. यहाँ पर hypothalamus, what it will do is, it will secrete specific hormones for specific functions from your pituitary. So this is done by a small tube. If you can see in between hypothalamus and pituitary, you'll be able to see. Hold on, let me zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, in between your hypothalamus and your pituitary, you'll be able to see a small thin line. Okay, small thing, tube-like structure. That is basically your infundibulum. Right? That is where your this thing will go through, hormones will go through. See, this is an enlarged image of the same thing. If you can see, hypothalamus has several parts, okay, several nuclei in a sense, but we'll not go into detail of that. The whole green part is your hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is connected to your anterior pituitary. This is the anterior pituitary, here is your posterior pituitary through your infundibulum. This tube which you see in between is your infundibulum. All right. One second. Where did that go? Yeah, coming back to this now that you know how the hypothalamus looks and where it is, see how your pituitary, and this is basically hypothalamus pituitary thyroid axis, if you can understand this. So this is HP, what you call HPT axis. That is why it is called hypothalamus pituitary thyroid axis. If you can understand, if you're not understanding, please stop me. I'll repeat it once again. Okay, any part of whatever I just explained, if you're not understanding it, please let me know, then I can explain again. If you don't tell me, I will not be able to explain it to you. Now coming to this, hypothalamus, if it wants to have some activity from thyroid gland, for example, in my body, in my circulation, there is less amount of T4. One important thing that you need to remember is those two hormones which I told you about of thyroid, your T3 and T4. There are other hormones as well, but the one that will be circulating around mostly in your blood, all right, that will be T4. And the usable part, so if any target tissue, if you can see here, target tissue, meaning this is any tissue, if it is going to your muscle, or if it is going to your bone, or it is going to your liver, any other part, okay, that will be your target tissue where a thyroid hormone is showing its activity, hence it is called your, where it is targeting basically. So in that tissue, what will happen is T4, which is the regulatory thyroid hormone, thyroxine, that will be converted into T3, because T3 is more metabolically active. T3 is the more usable form of thyroid hormone than T4. I'll repeat once again. Most of the hormone that you see, if you draw blood from a person, okay, the hormone that you will see slightly higher of thyroid is T4 rather than T3. Okay, because T4 can what you call circulate easily in your blood rather than T3. T3 is more metabolically active, and what will happen is whenever T4 is going to a target tissue, all right, T4 is converted into T3. For example, let's suppose we have a, postman. Okay, now postman goes around here and there in his normal life wearing normal clothes. Okay, this is an example so that you understand. Okay, he looks just like normal person, right? If you do not see him wearing his particular uniform, you will not understand. If he is going into a post office or someplace wherever he works, he will put on a uniform, right? That is where you understand the difference. Okay, that will represent him. So in this sense, T3 is representing a more active form of thyroid hormone. Okay, if you can understand the analogy here, T4 is something that is more common in your circulation. It is easier to circulate thyroxine, whereas T3 is the active form which can be used by your cells. Right, that is the basic difference. Now if there is a need for T3 and T4 in your blood, okay, because of whatever reason, let's suppose T3 and T4 levels in your blood have fallen, what will happen is this stimulus will go to your hypothalamus directly. Here it is not represented, but first your stimulus will go to hypothalamus. Hypothalamus, sensing that there is decreased amount of T3 and T4, it will release something called thyrotropin releasing hormone, that is TRH. Okay, thyrotropin release hormone. I'll type it down in the chat box. Okay. The first thing that will happen is if T3 and T4 fall, okay, in your blood, meaning the levels fall in your blood, hypothalamus gets stimulated. All right. Once hypothalamus gets stimulated, it will release something. If hold on, I'll put it on the side so that you can see the chart as well. Right now, uh, if no one is saying, please look at the what you call chat box. I'm putting the steps on that so that you can easily understand. Now, once hypothalamus is getting stimulated, this fellow, in order to increase the amount of T3 T4, because the stimulus started with decreased T3 T4, it will stimulate your hypothalamus, which in turn will secrete something called thyro thyrotropin thyrotropin releasing hormone. Right, it will what you call, this is TRH basically. Hypothalamus will secrete something called thyrotropin releasing hormone. This thyrotropin releasing hormone goes to your anterior pituitary. In your anterior pituitary, thyrotropin releasing hormone will in turn stimulate the production of, I cannot see the chart and steps. Cannot see that. Hold on then. 1 second. If you're not able to see that, let us make a flow chart this way. Okay, are you able to see this whiteboard at least?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Chalo. एक second. See, we'll put this on the side. यहाँ पर T, sorry, please don't draw. T3 and T4 fall or decrease. Slash serum level decreases. All right, this is the initial stimulus. You need to have something so that hypothalamus can get activated. Without any particular stimulus, your hypothalamus will not work. Okay, so this is the basic pretext. मैं ये major category top left में लगा दे रहा हूँ. All right, because of this, what will happen? Let's put it as arrow. Okay, this causes stimulation of your hypothalamus. Hypothalamus in turn will stimulate your anterior pituitary. I just told you hypothalamus will control your anterior pituitary. It can also control your posterior pituitary depending on what is required. Some hormones are released from your anterior pituitary, some are released from your posterior pituitary. When you learn about pituitary gland, you will obviously learn about hypothalamus, then you will understand better. For now, we are only discussing thyroid, so I'm sticking to this. All right. Hypothalamus, it will release something called thyrotropin releasing hormone. Right, this is your TRH basically. All right, this TRH goes to your anterior pituitary. All right, in your anterior pituitary, this TRH will stimulate anterior pituitary in what you call releasing another hormone. So basically your hypothalamus is releasing a hormone which stimulates pituitary, another organ, to what you call produce a different hormone. All right, so there are two organs, two hormones for now. It all started with decreased amount of T3 T4. This is sensed by your hypothalamus. Basically there are receptors in your blood that we can sense the amount of T3 T4 in the serum, which will in turn give a neurological signal to your brain. Your brain will what you call command your higher centers, higher cortical centers in your brain will command your hypothalamus to release TRH. This TRH will go to your anterior pituitary and in turn cause the formation of TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. All right, so this is what your pituitary is doing, anterior pituitary. Because of this thyroid stimulating hormone, this fellow will go and work directly on your thyroid gland. Upon stimulation by TSH, your thyroid gland in turn will produce a few hormones. Okay, the main important ones here will be your T3 and T4. ठीक है, this is the cycle, basic cycle if you can understand. ठीक है, अभी समझ में आया what is happening?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
See,
sir.
so it is starting with a fall in T3, T4 levels, which is in turn stimulating your hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is secreting TRH, thyroid. Please don't confuse yourself between TSH and TRH, okay? Be careful. Thyrotropin releasing hormone will stimulate pituitary. Thyroid stimulating hormone, the most नाम से ही क्लियर हो जाता, थायराइड को स्टिमुलेट कर रहा वो, ठीक है. थायराइड स्टिमुलेटिंग हार्मोन विल स्टिमुलेट योर थायराइड ग्लैंड इन प्रोड्यूसिंग T3, T4. Now what will happen is there is a negative feed mechanism, negative you can tell it as negative feedback mechanism, okay. So अब मेरे पास, let me draw it with a pen, it will be easier. Ready, Nando? Yeah, let me put it in blue. Right now, because T3 and T4 levels are increasing, now यहाँ से stimulus आया, because of this T3 and T4 are being produced, meaning what will happen, both of their levels will go up, ठीक है. Whenever this level is going up, this in turn will stimulate your anterior pituitary, in the sense that it will give a negative feedback, meaning it will inhibit your anterior pituitary. This is called negative feedback mechanism, meaning if there is too much of one thing, you'll basically stop the production of that thing. For example, ab samjho, some person is producing books, okay, for some 50 students, for example, okay. Now initially those over a period of a year, okay, for 1 year, let's suppose, take your example itself, okay. Let's suppose you are going to college normally, and you are asking the management for books, okay, notebooks for example, to write in and whatever. Now at one point of time, your management is providing you with plain books. Let's suppose everyone gets 2 books or 3 books at the start of the semester or something like that, and you start writing in that, all right. At one point of time, there will come a time when you run out of the book. Basically you will completely write the book and it will be over, all right. For different subjects or however you use it, those 3 are over, okay. That decline in what you call books will basically stimulate you to ask your management again, I need more books, okay. So this in turn causes what you call your management to give you more books. Let's suppose they are giving you 3 or 4 more books. Now that you have new books again, you can tell your management you do not need any more books, okay. That will be the negative feedback. So basically if you have excess of something, you will stop the production of that thing. So that is the most basic example I can give you. I hope you understood what I just told you. The same thing will happen in your body. This is basically called a negative feedback mechanism. Hold on, I'll write it down here. Hold on, let's do it in a different color so that you yeah. Right, this is your negative feedback mechanism, okay. This basically entails that if you have any particular hormone or substance in excess being formed in your body, the production of that, so right now it started with decrease of T3, T4. Here we have an increase in T3, T4. So this increase in your, see, as this decrease was sensed by your body because of different receptors, this increase will also be sensed. Now whenever there is increase in the amount of hormone, your receptor will do it, or simply the amount of T3, T4 will in turn stimulate or in a way inhibit your anterior pituitary to stop producing any more TSH. If your anterior pituitary stops producing TSH, you will not get any more T3, T4. All right, I hope you get the picture. How many of you understood what I just told you?
Yes, sir.
पूरों को समझ में आया? पक्का?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
चलो
Yeah.
ठीक है. So that is the basic mechanism of your thyroid hormone. Did we miss anything? No, target tissues में, see again here it tells the same thing. यहाँ पर target tissues में T3, T4 are more. That is why it is giving a negative feedback control. It is negative feedback control, negative feedback loop, negative feedback mechanism. All of them refers to the same thing. That is why this is the major regulatory step. Here, as you can see on the left side, TSH release will be the major regulatory step, meaning it is regulating the release or regulating the formation of T3, T4. Hence, it is called regulatory step. If you stop the production of TSH from anterior pituitary, you will not get any more T3, T4. All right. There is another mechanism through which you can stop TRH production as well, but that is for another day. So, okay, let's get back to this thing. Right. Now that you know what is TSH, the functions of TSH, what does TSH do? How does it produce T3, T4? Okay, now there is something called sodium iodine pump. Now your thyroid gland, that is why iodinated salt is very important, and it is very important that you consume iodine for normal functioning of thyroid, because there is something called a sodium iodine pump in your what do you call thyroid gland. If you remember in chapter 3 of biochemistry, we read something about a sodium potassium pump. Right? I'm not sure how
Yes,
many of
sir.
you remember it, but there was exchange between 3 sodium ions and 2 potassium ions. Right? If you can
Yes.
remember that, something similar will happen here. But the exchange is between sodium and iodine. So what will happen is, in your what you call follicular cell, iodine will be taken inside versus sodium will be pushed outside. So more and more iodine will come inside. Now, as you know, the hormone triiodothyronine or tetraiodothyronine or even monoiodothyronine, all of them have iodine molecules. So iodine is very important for the normal formation of T3, T4. If you don't have iodine, you will not have what you call formation of T3, T4. You need iodine. For example, to make a pen, you need wood and graphite. If you don't have graphite, you cannot make a pencil with just wood, right? Similarly, even if you have the what you call protein makeup here, if you do not have iodine in it, you will not get the particular hormone, right? So TSH stimulates iodine pump so that more amount of iodine can come in. It will increase thyroglobulin synthesis. Thyroglobulin is the place where your T3, T4, it is basically if you have more amount of thyroglobulin, your T3, T4 will increase, because it will directly help in formation of T3 and T4. I'll discuss some other day how thyroglobulin will help in T3, T4 formation. But just know for now that if you have thyroglobulin in adequate amounts, you will get, or you will have formation of T3, T4. If there is decrease in thyroglobulin synthesis, your T3, T4 will fall, right? It will also help colloidal uptake of your follicles. So your follicles will be able to take in colloids for the formation of T3, T4. Other than that, TSH has a different function. It will help in proteolysis of triglycerides. Your TG means triglycerides. Other than that, it will increase the cell size and cell number. So hypertrophy and hyperplasia. I'm not sure whether those concepts have been taught to you or not, but increase in the cell size of obviously your thyroid gland cells, so follicular cells, and the number, so that more amount of T3, T4 is being formed. See, the goal of TSH is basically increasing what you call thyroid hormones. Now there is one what you call side effect though. What that side effect is, if you have prolonged TSH stimulation, this will increase vascularity and eventually cause hypertrophic enlargement of your thyroid hormone or thyroid gland basically. So excessive amount of TSH, if you have overproduction of TSH, this can, here the sentence basically means that it can directly relate to hyperthyroidism. It can cause hyperthyroidism if you have excessive stimulation of TSH, if you do not control the amount of TSH in your body. All right. Now, these are the concepts which I told you initially. Thyroid hormone, the circulating part which you see is T4 mainly. How it circulates, all right, there is a small portion of T3 that is also circulating, but mostly that you find free that is circulating in your blood is T4. All right. Now, there are a few proteins that will circulate T3, T4. Now T3, T4, there is a limit to which how much they can circulate and move around. So you will have proteins that will help in the movement of your T3, T4. So basically, let's suppose you are a protein, and if you want to go from one place to the other, there is a vehicle that you are using to move from one place to the other, or a cab, for example. Okay, those will be the proteins that are transporting your thyroid hormones. So that will be your thyroglobulin or your what do you call thyroid binding globulin, that is TBG, or TBPA is thyroid binding prealbumin. Okay, another one is albumin. These three, specifically TBG, is almost occupies 70% or almost transports 70% of all the thyroid hormones. Rest are some 0.03% and 0.01% is free, so which is unbound, meaning that T3 and T4, let's suppose I am having 100 units or 1000 units, for example. Okay, 1000 units of T3 and T4, 70% of that will be transported by a TBG, meaning 700 molecules are being transported by TBG. Some 20% and somewhere around 29% in total will be transported by both your TBPA and albumin. Whatever is left, 0.1% and 0.03%, 0.3%, sorry. So 1 molecule, 10 molecule, 3 molecules, something around that, that will remain free. So that will not be bound to your protein. Okay, I hope you understood the analogy. If I take 1000 molecules of T4 and T3, out of that 700 molecules will be transported by your TBG. Basically means out of 1000 thyroid hormones, thyroid hormone molecules, 700 are taking a cab and moving around. They are not circulating freely. Okay, they are taking one very specific cab. Let's suppose all of them are going in Uber. Okay, let's suppose these three are Uber cabs, Ola cabs, and some other cabs, whatever it is. Okay. TBG is the most common one that will circulate. TBPA is the next most common one. Let's suppose that fellow is Ola. And albumin is some two-wheeler. Okay. Let's suppose it is Jump or whatever it is. Okay. Bounce. Let's suppose. Whatever is left unbound, that is 1 molecule and 3 molecules of T4 and T3. That will not use a cab or a bike. Okay. That will be free. Basically, that is unbound. If you can understand, see, if you can see, a very small fraction remains unbound, that is 0.03% of T4 and 0.3% of T3. F represents free, so you have free T4 and free T3.